He's got the hat.
The merch is ready to go.
merch, merch is ready to go. All right, Daylight. Sorry, all right, Jason, you're the CEO and founder of Daylight, which is building a decentralized energy network. Okay, I'm imagining creating a distributed solar grid is an absolute huge lift from a technical and a logistical perspective and a financial perspective. So I guess I'm very curious how Daylight works and ultimately how blockchain comes into this, because you don't see any mention of it on your website.
It's very important. I think there's a few projects that I respect quite a bit that have come out with really interesting crypto native products. I think Blackbird's a great example where crypto is abstracted to the back end, and people that are interacting with the crypto elements will, have kind of more things surface to them. People that are interacting with the front end, maybe not as much. We'll talk about that in a second. But at a high level, to give you the quick overview on Daylight, right? Daylight is really a new kind of energy network that connects people, capital markets, and the grid together in order to scale energy. You can think about it almost as like a three-sided marketplace, right? Homes and businesses get access to more affordable and reliable power for hosting distributed energy infrastructure. Investors globally get access to electricity as a new asset class for the first time, especially as we go through this electricity super cycle when it comes to scaling compute, scaling robotics, scaling new industrial capacity. They could participate in electricity directly through our on-chain markets. And then third, power companies, utilities, traders can come to our aggregated network of distributed energy resources and basically take those and monetize them with the grid, trade them with the grid, just like you would a traditional power plant. And so Daylight unifies all three of these into one energy network to generate as much value as possible for every participant in the network itself. And so that's really the most interesting and correct way to think about Daylight. But where does crypto come into all that, right? There's two key pieces for scaling a distributed energy network that need to be resolved. The first one, and I think maybe the most interesting one, is stripping out what we call the soft costs in the space. Most people don't realize this, but customer acquisition in the distributed energy space is extremely high.
Door to door,
Extremely
baby.
high.
Door to
Door to
door.
door. About 60% of the cost of an average solar system is attributed to inefficient marketing. Only about 40% is hardware and installation. And so we need to figure out how to solve the customer acquisition problem at scale. And our bet is that, hey, crypto networks are actually a very elegant way to do this by incentivizing people to go out and scale small, effectively franchises in their local communities by giving them ownership of the network itself. We've seen this happen time and time again. Helium, HiveMapper, WorldCoin, you can go down the list and see this working in action. And we plan to utilize something similar. And the other side is, to your point, the financial element. How do we catalyze a huge amount of capital behind the build out of this infrastructure network? And again, DeFi markets have proven the most effective at scaling capital quickly for well-designed and interesting yield products. And that's what Daylight is kind of bringing to the market. So those are the two real kind of crypto native angles to Daylight, but all of it's abstracted and wrapped into what is really just a broader energy network. And crypto is just one of the many elements that we use to build it.
Can you maybe talk about, this has been, I think these distributed solar networks have been a promise for decades, right? And I'm curious why they haven't taken off yet, because the incentive has existed, right? It's like I put a solar panel on my home, I can sell back to the grid when I want to. So there is kind of like some inherent incentive. So curious why, I guess, additional crypto incentives you think are kind of the big unlock here.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think it's back to number one, that customer acquisition problem. And again, the solar industry for a long time has been treated as a sales business, not as a network business. It's how do I go get my really juicy sales commission on selling this to someone that, I met at the grocery store, or I knocked on their door and they got interested. And that's where the business has really stopped, because it has been very attractive. And frankly, tax credits have probably made the market more inefficient than it otherwise would be. And we're starting to see the kind of rollback and phase out of tax credits, which I think will push this market to be much more efficient. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is actually, it doesn't actually stop with solar. Solar is actually maybe the less interesting element of Daylight. When you think about Daylight, Daylight actually integrates solar and oversized batteries on every home that joins its network. The battery is really the secret sauce and the secret weapon, because batteries allow us to effectively transport electrons through time and use them whenever the individual needs them, the grid needs them. It's basically a fuel tank for electricity, right? And by putting a battery on every home, number one, that homeowner or that business owner gets access to backup power when they need it. They get more reliability and resiliency than the centralized system offers them. But also, to the point of power traders, utility companies integrating with our network, they can tap into those batteries and utilize them when the grid is under the most stress, not when the solar panel is producing. Those two things often don't line up. In fact, almost never line up. Solar typically produces at the most abundant energy hours of the day, Well, we need electricity in the evenings and the mornings, and that's when the batteries can come into play.
So daylight is the energy time machine.
Is an energy time machine. And so by building this as a network first approach, right, rather than treating this as a sales business, but treating this as a network where every node reinforces the value, we actually can generate far more long-term value, revenues, et cetera, to the platform that just drive down costs to the homeowner, to the end user, of the end adopter of the platform. And this model really only opened up 3 or 4 years ago with new regulations that were passed by FERC, which kind of governs the energy system. So this is a new model that's opened up. And by combining these two things, we think that we can build and scale much faster than people have previously.
Okay, so you raised, the headline is $75 million to build decentralized energy networks. 15 of that was equity and 60 was more project financing. I'm curious about that 60 because my sense is that that is really trying to tap into more of the DeFi landscape here. But I'm curious about that structure and if you could dive into the financing unlock that you're building towards here.
You're exactly right. That is kind of the early instantiation of what will become really a DeFi protocol. We've done this in reverse compared to most crypto projects, which is go build a bunch of hype, a bunch of TVL, and then maybe find something useful to do with it. And instead, we went out and we got long-term patient private capital that we are using to bootstrap both the origination side and the yield and revenue side of our network before taking it to the public crypto markets. And we think that allows us to be a bit more patient and build out the origination flywheel and the yield flywheel that make this thing really successful before having to go and also manage the DeFi elements of this. So that project finance capital is being deployed into homes today to go finance solar and storage. We're embedding it with local solar companies as kind of a financing as a service product, as well as offering it directly. And what we'll go from here is we'll be launching, the on-chain version of this, which is effectively an electricity yield product. Similar to what USDAI is doing for GPUs and compute, or Maple is doing for crypto loans, we'll be doing for electricity revenues. And globally, investors will be able to tap into that electricity yield source as kind of a unique new uncorrelated asset class that will be funding the underlying infrastructure and tapping into the revenues from this network of underlying infrastructure.
I mean, talk about timing, right? Everybody's chasing the energy opportunity right now in various ways, and like the only guarantee people have in the future here is that we don't have enough energy and we're going to need more.
That's exactly right.
I mean, on that, do you feel like solar is the solution, or is this just one of the kind of new energy markets that needs to come online alongside nuclear and et cetera, et cetera?
It's one of many, right? It's an everything approach. If you look at China, they're outpacing us in everything from nuclear to solar to natural gas to coal. They're throwing everything at the problem because they understand that whoever holds the most amount of electricity is going to be able to invest the most in their economy going forward. But I do believe, and the reason that Daylight specifically is a distributed energy network, not just an energy network, is because distributed energy is by far the fastest and cheapest way to scale energy capacity if you can fix the problems that we've talked about, which is catalyzing the incentive to kind of adopt it and catalyzing capital behind to fund it. And the reason for that is whenever a power plant comes online, it has to go through something called an interconnection request. That's typically a 5-year timeline. Then all of the infrastructure that supports power plants, transformers, substations, et cetera, are backed up to 2 to 3 years for waitlist. And then you have to build all this new transmission infrastructure to actually connect it into the system. And so you're looking at, a 7 to 10 year life cycle from project start to project completion, whereas distributed energy can come on in a matter of weeks, and it's already tied into the network. It's already tied into the energy system. It doesn't need any new supporting infrastructure around it. Right. So it's much faster and much cheaper to build. So if we can scale, we expect to be one of the fastest energy developers in the United States.
So let's talk about that scaling, because you're implied in this theory here is that you're going to be able to bring a completely new channel to market. And I think you sort of referenced a bunch of very crypto native token forward projects in the deep in space. And I think when I was going onto your website, you're saying that I get to earn points that maybe take my energy cost down, or I can buy merch, which feels like the least compelling crypto angle I've could think of. So
I mean, it's a nice hat, but
yeah, great hat, but like give me some tokens, baby. Like I want to. So and I think to me that's sort of this intersection of like the real world and crypto seems like it may be a friction point for you here as you try to go to the sort of general early adopter market. So I'm curious how you're thinking about that.
You hear that a lot, but actually I'm not sure that's entirely the case. If you just go look at the stats of how many people aged 30 to 55 own Ethereum and Bitcoin and Coinbase, there's quite a bit of them.
Let's go.
And they've been looking to, for years of why is crypto useful? Why is it interesting? And I think tapping into that why is a huge opportunity that everyone is basically overlooking. You have to make this very consumer forward. You have to make it easy to understand. And you also, frankly, have to make the token useful for other things outside of just being ownership of the network. But we can do all of that while still offering these kind of unique crypto-enabled business model to the market. And so that's what we plan to do. Right now, all the incentives are built around sun points, as we call them. They are points. They actually are on base Sepolia, but they are points. And the idea is over time that will phase into something that looks more like ownership in the network. But we will always be looking to build products as a developer on top of this network, allowing people, for instance, to use the tokens that you're earning to pay your energy subscription back to the platform, and just give these things to more normal people that are used to traditional Web2 rewards as a way to just kind of understand why these tokens may be valuable on top of the underlying kind of ownership thesis in the network.
So if I'm a bull on this, and I also am a bull on tokens, how do I align myself to sort of be most exposed to that future? It seems like a lot of it's still to come, but is the best way right now just to go get one of these things installed in my house? And I don't think Canada seems to be the right place for it. So maybe it's not me, but for
Canada's
others.
not on the market yet, but who knows where we go next. Honestly, the best way for people to get involved is going to be an active contributor and community participant in growing the network. So of course, deploying this into your home is going to be a way to earn, but the way that people are really going to earn, excuse me, is going to be going to their communities, running events, and just spreading education and spreading material about Daylight, because we think that kind of community incentivized bottoms up growth is going to be the way that this market scales. And so a lot of the rewards will be directed at people who are becoming super users in their communities and going out and building out their own little Daylight franchises and scaling the network in those markets.
That's a word there that I haven't used in a while, but I still think is underexplored in crypto, which is franchise. Sure. I think that's such a
well, and it's almost an inversion of the franchise model, where you do get the benefit of building out a business, but you know, McDonald's operators typically aren't getting rewarded with stock in McDonald's.
Right.
They get the benefit of running the business. Yeah, right. And so crypto, I think, makes franchises even better than the way they exist in the traditional Web2 world.
I'm curious what you think most, deep-in projects are have notoriously underperforming tokens. And I'm curious what you think they've gotten wrong, or as you look forward to yours, what you think you need to do to get it right.
Number one, you need to be able to generate revenue, which, the good thing about ours is that uniquely we are positioning ourselves into a commodity marketplace that exists with demand for our product on day one. So every single node that joins the network generates incremental revenue for the platform. There's never any of this, we need to build X amount of supply before we get to day one, day X revenue. So number one, generating revenue is just critical. We're in a world of building real businesses today. And Daylight is building a real business. And then number two, I think token distribution models and deepen are a little bit broken. This whole idea of what is effectively perpetual inflation, regardless of growth in the network, isn't a great idea. I think what you'll see with Daylight is something that looks, frankly, a bit more like WorldCoin, where tokens are distributed one time for new node growth, and then maybe smaller amounts for ongoing engagement. But the idea is that the product can actually stand on its own two legs without being supported by a perpetual stream of token incentives.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, I think we have to leave it there for today, but I think it's a fascinating opportunity that you're going after, and I think one that is just going to continue to show up on people's radars as a very important segment for innovators, for capital allocators to be participating in. So hopefully we can check back in next time you have some big news. I think this is not an easy category for you to go after. Three-sided marketplaces just sound like, 3 times more difficult to go build out, but maybe 3 times the opportunity here.
Much more than 3 times the opportunity.
Oh, what's cubed opportunity?
10 times? 100 times?
It's probably 10 times the opportunity. Yeah.
11. Such a good spokesman.
11 times.
11. I'm going to offer you something here. It was funny because when Daylight launched, I go, okay, what's the Daylight Twitter account? I brought up a portfolio company of C clubs called @Daylight. So if you ever, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of, you need the acquisition of the Twitter handle here. You let me know. Happy to.
We would love to explore that.
Here.
We would absolutely love to explore that.
I'm not sure what their plan is, but anyways, I'll stop trying to insert myself into the middle of a impactful transaction here. Zero fees. Just want good stuff to happen.
Just a solar panel.
Just a solar panel. Or a battery.
A battery is actually what I would want the most, Josh, because here we have hydroelectric powers our power all the time, and yet the power goes out 3-4 times a year for various periods of time. And I also think that this sort of the craziness around energy generation and where demand lies and how inefficient it is for, I guess, regulatory reasons and or just the way that demand works is kind of crazy. Like you have this huge deltas between usage and it seems like just bringing some more efficiency there. And I think batteries have been touted as the tool to do that. But
Absolutely.
the economic model there has been uncertain. So I think it's fascinating. I love that you guys are putting your efforts into this, and wish you nothing but huge success as you push forward. And so come back on, check in with us once you have some other fun things to share with us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the invite, guys. Great chatting.
Right,
Peace, man.
cheers, brother.
See ya.